everyone, we are here at KubeCon Detroit 2022. I'm here with Michael from the WasmEdge runtime community, and I was speaking to a lot of folks, and I was asking them, what is the hot topic of discussion at KubeCon? This was at day one, and surprisingly, many people said Wasm. So I was like, whom can I find to talk about Wasm?
Yeah.
So we're doing this interview with Michael, and let's talk a little bit more about it. Can you tell us a little bit more about why are people so excited about the Wasm community?
Yeah.
And you have a booth, so from all the discussions you've had at the booth, what are some of the challenges that the WasmEdge runtime community is solving?
Yeah. So let me talk about why people are excited about Wasm. Because Wasm is a new isolation technology or container technology. So if you look at the previous generation or the container technology that goes before us, it's a virtual machine and Linux containers. They're all huge success, right? Now we have a new one. It's called WebAssembly on the server. WebAssembly started in the browser, right? It's a code isolation environment in the browser. So you can run, say, C++ code or Rust code in the browser. So it's the isolation environment there. Then it moved to the blockchain. So essentially, most of the new smart contracts are running on WebAssembly these days. And I'll get to that in a minute. Why? And now we are moving to the server side, or most precisely in the edge cloud. Cloud like a CDN cloud. For like the cloud of Fastly and Cloudflare. That sort of cloud environments, right? So why is there a new runtime or a new isolation technology needed? For blockchain and for cloud and for edge cloud, is because in those environments there's much more constraints, restrictions. So you really need to have one that is much smaller than the Linux container and runs much faster. So we worked with Docker on Monday and made an announcement to integrate WasmEdge into the Docker desktop and Docker CLI. So the number one comments people have been giving us is that when you spin up a microservice in WasmEdge and run side by side with Docker, so you have a Linux container that runs a database, a MySQL database, and you have the whole microservice, including the database driver, the HTTP server, all runs written in Rust and runs in WasmEdge. And then you have a front end of some sort, all managed by Docker Compose. And if you look at the image size, the entire middle layer, the entire microservice is only like 1 megabytes, 2 megabytes. As opposed to the database is like hundreds of megabytes. That's and you can also do a lot of things that are interesting. So for instance, you can do AI inferencing there at near native speed, which would blow the size up to, 20 megabytes, 30 megabytes or something like that, as opposed to a typical TensorFlow or PyTorch container that you would use that would be in the range of 5 gigabytes or 10 gigabytes. So it's 100 times or 1,000 times improvement in terms of memory footprint, the size. It also runs much faster than the container, so so that's the benefits. Of course, there's no free lunch, so there's downside. There are challenges, right? So the challenges would mostly be developer tooling, because this is not Linux container, so you can't just have your existing application ported over here. It wouldn't work like that. It's more like the Java and the JVM. So you need to have language SDKs and things like that. So for now, we support Rust and the JavaScript. Those languages are supported very well. So developers often need to have a bit of a rewrite of their application in order to fit that the new runtime and the new use cases. Especially on the edge. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thanks a lot for sharing. Sounds really interesting. And can you tell our viewers a little bit more about the upcoming, can you tell our viewers a little bit more about the announcements that were made at KubeCon regarding Wasm?
Yeah. So in KubeCon, there's two big things that happened to us. One is Docker integration. Because when people think about Docker, people think about Linux containers. But Docker as a company is much more than that. It's developer tooling that manages those containers, right? So with WebAssembly emerging as the new, for lack of a better word, container format or isolation format, right? So the Docker desktop and Docker CLI wants to manage it, so that you can have a cluster of services that runs. Some of them long-running ones run in the Linux container, or the new ones, or the ones that require more, less resources, runs in the WebAssembly container, WebAssembly runtime like this one, so they can run side by side in the same Kubernetes cluster or in the same Docker Compose environment, right? So that's I think that's great for us, because Docker has tens of millions of developers, and by bringing through their toolchain to bring our runtime to those developers, I think it's a win-win situation. And the other collaboration that we had is with Dapper. It sounds similar, but it's different. It's DAPR, which is a Microsoft microservice. It's a spin-off from Microsoft. It's a microservice framework. It provides sidecar services to those to a lot of big deployment of microservices. So the sidecar includes service discovery, networking, and also key value store, secret management, and all that. It's also a CNC project here, and it's an incubation project, and there's a company behind it. So what we did is that in a typical Dapper setup, you would have containers to run the sidecar, and also containers to run the application itself that communicate with the sidecar in the service mesh. So we built a WebAssembly-based SDK that allows a WebAssembly application to communicate with the Dapper sidecar. So we can get rid of this Linux container and run it in WebAssembly, and to have more flexibility in terms of architecture, so it's much smaller, faster, and you can also run more of them. So instead of one container talk to one sidecar, you can have one sidecar talk to 100 different WebAssembly runtimes, and to have them scale up and scale down really fast. So that'd be the idea. Yeah. So
amazing. Well, thanks a lot for sharing, and amazingly great announcement, especially the Docker one. My last question to you is: seeing the trends that you have observed at this KubeCon, what are some of the trends we're likely to see in the future?
Yeah, so we would like to see developers would be about, because KubeCon is a combination of two things. One is the established money-making side, which here you can see it's the ops, right? The security, the monitoring, and all that. And then it's a new thing. We believe we are the new thing. We are the next generation. Or I would say containers has been very well used in the big data center, and we are bringing it to the edge, to new use cases. So we'd love to have developers check out our our tooling, with Docker, and also with other Wasm companies here, like Wasm Cloud here and Fermion. They have hosted Wasm services, which you can write applications and test locally and then deploy on their cloud. It's a serverless function environment, right? So there's lots of tools that's around Wasm. That's come to our GitHub repository. If you like it, give it a star. There's a vibrant community. There's over 100 contributors in there. And if you see anything wrong, to raise an issue or send us a PR, and generally learn about this new way to do code isolation and to do code deployment. And we'd love to build this community together.
Amazing. Well, thanks a lot for sharing, Michael. And for anyone who wants to get involved in the Wasm community, I'll leave the links in the description below. For more clips from KubeCon, check out Civo TV on YouTube.